Well, hello there, friends and lovers, Easter lovers, springtime lovers, lovers of all things, middle of April. Thank you for joining us. This is 5 Minutes with Robert and Amy Nasir. And you. Right. Oh, sorry?
Oh, that is right.
That is right. And you know who you are, some of the best names in objectivism. Not just in objectivism, in philosophy. Not just in philosophy, in the world are already in the chat. So thank you for joining us. It is good to see you here. Today is April 20th. It's 420. Some of my friends hear 420 and, well, they have a higher idea of what that means. But today is April 20th. It is Easter Sunday, and we are celebrating Easter Sunday in the manner of Easter. I want to know how you're celebrating. I want to see it in the chat. Are you having the Easter dinner? Do you have an Easter basket, or at least some sweets, some treats? We had the marshmallow eggs this morning. We had the Cadbury cream eggs.
Yes.
And with Amy in mind, those are a couple of her favorites. I did make some hard-boiled eggs with colors. So
yes.
Little bit of Easter basket going on. Tell me about your Easter in the chat. Again, today is April 20th, the 110th day of this, your best. Man, it's getting harder to say your best year yet. Every time I read the headlines. I don't know. Can we say that?
Well, I mean, I suppose you can compartmentalize, all the best people do.
Your most militant year yet. Your greatest year for fighting evil yet. Okay, well, whatever. It's 110th day. I'm still going to say it. Your best year yet. Because it's still true. There's never been a better time to be alive. Now, after today, you've got 255 days left before the end of the year.
Yeah.
Before it's 2026. Why would I want to be in a rush to get to 2026? Well, it's 75 days until Independence Day, and then 1 year after that, it's the 250th anniversary of the United States of America. Woo! Saying, England, we love you, but it's you, not me. So that's coming up. Summer is in 61 days, but we had a day this week that felt like summer. A lot of you live in places where it's always summer. And Memorial Day is in just 36 days. And on this date, April 20th, 1933, FDR... Oh, wait. FDR. I forgot to explain. I mentioned in the social networks, those of you who are on Facebook or Twitter/X, I still call it Twitter because Twitter's cute. What is all this X?
I mean, X is a band, okay?
That's right. That's right. It should be Xing. And I posted a picture of this coffee mug. Let me tell you. Here, listen to this. Yeah, that little thing on there, it spins. It makes a sound.
Do it again.
It's actually a frequency that's hard for me to hear at my age, but isn't that sweet?
Here, let me spin it.
No, you do it, yes. Yeah,
there you go.
You notice when Amy does it, there's a lot more magic. Look at that cup.
Yeah,
lavender,
it's
pink, green, gold.
It's paisley-ish.
Okay.
It's got roses on it.
Look at this shirt. I have been told...
Yeah.
In fact, I've been told by a former objectivist, maybe I shouldn't say former, that's rude, by an objectivist that men don't wear pink shirts. Why am I using this beautiful, gorgeous, but decidedly feminine coffee mug? And why am I wearing a pink shirt? Of course, with the white suit, but you're used to that. And look at this. Look at this Easter hat. But, Amy, you're a girl. I mean, you're a woman. So you are supposed to look beautiful and cute and charming for Easter Day.
Am I a woman?
I am wearing. I swear, half an hour before the show, before we went live tonight, I was not wearing this shirt. I was not using this coffee mug. And then Jim Ashley, who incidentally is in the chat on both Facebook and YouTube, the writer Jim Ashley, posted a link to a Candace Owens video, which actually was the topic of discussion James Valiant discussed on the ARC UK show, the Daily Objective today. Candace Owens has declared, in regard to the recent women going into space and Katy Perry going to outer space.
Let me guess. She hates the Jews.
She does, but she didn't talk about that. Well, it's all related. No, she said in regard to that story and the execrable Matt Walsh talking about it, she said, I have some differences with Matt Walsh. in terms of being sacks of
manure?
There's not a whole lot of difference between Candace Owens and Matt Walsh. But anyway, in regard to that space flight, very controversial. Some people are saying, why do these rich women spend all this money on them? They could have fed poor people. Whatever. Candace Owens says, you still believe we went to the moon?
Oh, did she?
You still think NASA is real? No, she says, and I quote, space is fake and gay.
Well, good. Now, is she celebrating 420?
Now, today is 420. And some of you know that's code for the usage of marijuana. If you ever get a 420 violation, it's because you were using cannabis somewhere you shouldn't have been. And so maybe that was it. Yeah, no, space is fake and gay. NASA is fake and gay. And you might wonder, wait a minute, fake? Like the moon landing was fake? Okay, that's stupid. And I bring it up because if you heard us last week, if you were here Sunday for 5 minutes with Robert and Amy Nasir, Sunday at 6 o'clock Eastern Time, we talked about it because it was the anniversary of Apollo, not 11, not 13, which had to be scrapped, but 12, the second flight in which men did walk on the moon. In fact, if you look at the whole Apollo program, all the different, it's clear that it couldn't have been, and it's ridiculous even to say that it couldn't have been fake. Of course it wasn't fake. But Candace Owens out there has millions and millions of people listening to her say, well, the guy who devised the NASA program, he was actually a demonic sex magic practitioner.
Oh, so he's a member of QAnon
or
something?
There you go. No, QAnon was fighting the Pizzagate people and Epstein. And
it's the enemies of QAnon.
So I think, I've said before, sadly enough, I'm not creative enough to be gay. I am heterosexual. But I've been told objectivist men don't wear pink shirts. And look at that amazing coffee mug. And this is all in honor of James Valiant and Jim Ashley and everybody else who is sharing this charming video by Candace Owens. If NASA and space are fake and gay, fly me to the moon. I'm up. Sign me up. Let's make it happen.
You actually did get a lot of likes from your previous your profile pic. So if you're not friends with Robert on Facebook, you should be, because he has a profile.
The young kid?
Yeah.
The skinny kid with the Mickey Mouse t-shirt?
When Robert was about 19.
I didn't even think that was that great a shot. I thought it was kind of just very silly. Like, look at that naive young punk. What does he know?
And you were wearing the Mickey Mouse shirt. And then I mentioned that I really wanted to marry Mickey Mouse when I was about 4 or 5. And I even had a Mickey Mouse telephone. I didn't mention that, but I had an actual Mickey Mouse telephone, and he's holding the telephone in his hand like this, and you pick it up, and it's just the best. But anyway, I digress. You got a lot of comments that you were quite attractive back then.
I'm flattered, and that's very sweet. I don't think I put any hearts and likes on that one yet, but I will. I will say thank you to all of you who said such charming things about that naive young man. Now, coffee mug, pink and gold. I was talking about gold. Let's get back to gold. I'm always telling you folks, it's the end of the world as we know it. It's not. It's not the end of the world.
No.
How do I know it's not the end of the world? And the answer is, in 1933, on this date, April 20th, FDR Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the last and only president to serve 4 terms, and God forbid, we'll say that on Easter, maybe he's listening, God forbid we have a president who serves more than 2 terms ever again.
Yeah.
2028. Excuse me, a little cough there. On April 5th, 1933, Roosevelt ordered all gold coins and gold certificates from banks, from the Federal Reserve, in denominations of more than $100, turned in for, I love the story, researching here, it says other money, fiat money, paper money, fake money.
Thanks, FDR.
It required all persons to deliver all gold coin, gold bullion, and gold certificates owned by them to the Federal Reserve by May 1st for, get this, for a set price of $20.67 per ounce. The interesting thing about eminent domain is that when they take away your property and tell you, you can't have your house anymore, we want to build a road. Or even worse, you can't have your house anymore, there's a company that wants your land and they will provide us more tax revenue than you do, so you lose your home. But here's the thing, the Constitution demands that if they do that, you have to be not just compensated, but justly compensated.
Whatever that means.
I don't know how you get justice out of...
Yeah, so that was like reverse Obama stash. It was FDR stash, but
Yes.
it was in reverse. You got paper instead of gold.
I was going to mention Obama, so I'm glad you brought the man
Oh,
up.
good for him. And then reverse Trump stash too.
Reverse Trump
he
stash.
had that as well.
Trump is a champion of the Kelo decision. Trump is a champion of eminent domain.
Yes.
Progress must be made.
Yeah, I love that man. He's such a communist. That Trump.
He's on our side, and he
Boy,
won't get off.
I love statism. I'm such a Trump fan.
Oh, don't get me going on Trump. Well, do get me... Well, no, we'll wait. We'll wait with that. So, 1933, Roosevelt kills the gold standard. Here's my point. Here's the reason I bring that up. That did not single-handedly destroy America. In fact, nothing has destroyed America. America's fine. We have a lot of issues, but we don't need to be made great again. We're already great. Imagine for a second if, say, a Republican came along and reversed that. Oh, wait, the Republican was the one who put the nail in that coffin. Oh, Richard Nixon at Bretton Woods. But imagine if a real, not conservative, a real capitalist, a pro-capitalist president said, no, we're going back on the gold standard. It will be difficult, and, we'll have to do a lot of leading up to it, but it can be done. It should be done. It will be done. I think, and you tell me if I'm wrong, tell me in the chat, I think that alone would save the world. Because it would establish such a precedent. It would change monetary systems around the world. They'd cascade like dominoes, except their systems wouldn't fail like dominoes. Their systems would be saved from fiat currency, or they would fail. They would have to come on board. At least to some degree. A lot of them would fake it and do crazy stuff. No, I think going back on the gold standard would save the world. And there are other things that I think would do that too. If they were done properly, if they were done rationally, if they were done in a way that doesn't violate people's rights or make scapegoats out of a particular group of people.
Yes, definitely.
Excuse me, cough, cough.
Yes.
I think that would save the world. But my main point is it didn't destroy the country. You can't destroy America all in one move like that. Speaking of things you can't destroy, this is actually the anniversary in 2010. Man, it seems like a lot longer ago. In 2010, April 20th, this was the Deepwater Horizon explosion that caused the Gulf of Mexico oil spill.
Oh, right.
In the Gulf of Mexico.
The Gulf of Mexico, you say?
Yeah, in the Gulf of Mexico, the BP Deepwater Horizon oil drilling rig in the Gulf of Mexico, and this was just 50 miles off the Louisiana coast. We see the pictures of the birds, and the volunteers would go find birds on the shore with oil in their wings, and they would wash them off. It was super sweet. But the bigger issue was what they had to do, to clean the oil off of the water and the shore and the sand and all the stuff. The biggest offshore oil spill in American history. Is it still there? Actually, no. We cleaned it up. But we didn't just clean it up. Nature cleaned it up. Time cleaned it up. They found biological organisms, and I knew this from working in landfills, that actually process the oils, that basically, they don't literally eat the oil, but they eat the oil. We survived that. We survived gold being made illegal to own in values greater than $100, and that's been massaged a bit. You can have gold coins, for example, as investments. In fact, you should check out Keith Weiner's group, Monetary Metals, and you can invest in gold and get interest paid in gold. But since he's not paying me to say that, I'll leave that there. You just do your own research. And we survived the Deepwater Horizon oil rig explosion. And we've survived worse than that. And we will survive the current tsunami too. I will give you additional evidence for that, but I'm going to leave that there. On this date, it's Easter. Happy Easter, and it's the last day of Passover. Does that mean you can have a ham sandwich now? I guess you can never have a ham sandwich.
I'm not entirely sure.
I don't know.
Please let us know in the chat.
Tell us if any of... No, don't even... I mean, if you want. I don't actually care about that. I was more curious what you were doing for Easter. For Easter candy, Easter dinner, Easter celebrations. And yes, I understand some of our listeners out there, you may be among the faithful. And so you, or at least your heroes, may be feeling cross on this day. No, wait, that was Friday. You can share your stories about that, too. Birthdays today include Napoleon III. Isn't that charming? No, not Napoleon the First. Napoleon III, but he did reign from 1852 to 1870. And just like Grandpa, he was no great guy either. In fact, he shares a birthday with who else today? Yes, Adolf Hitler.
Oh, he had a birthday?
Yes.
You mean he had a mother? Ooh.
The only good thing Adolf Hitler ever did, the only good thing he ever did was shoot himself in the head 10 days after his birthday in 1945. Happier news, it is, it's Luther Vandross's birthday. We lost him, actually, a few years ago.
Oh, my gosh. I love Luther Vandross.
But it is his birthday, and you should listen to some Luther Vandross music today.
He had the most exceptional voice.
In honor of the man. Absolutely. Yeah, he only lived to be 54, but, somebody like that, I always think, he lived more in 54 years than most of us do in 100. So... happy birthday to the late Luther Vandross. And one person who is still with us, who's always fun to follow on the socials, but he was also kind of heroic in his day, is George Takei.
Oh, yeah.
George Takei is 88 years old today, a very funny man. I posted a link to the Star Trek episode in which he goes a little nuts, and he's got a saber in his hand, and he's got his shirt off, and he's in incredibly good shape for such a small guy. Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah.
That picture of me in the Mickey Mouse t-shirt, I was slender, but I never looked like that. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I'm so glad that George Takei is still around.
88 years old and still out there having fun and talking it up and doing very funny things, but also speaking out about things he disagrees with. Might be some of the same things we disagree with.
Probably.
Yes. Very much so.
Yeah, but yeah, Luther Vandross, and now just so you know, Luther Vandross, he was a unfortunately, sadly, it was kind of sad. He was a closeted gay man, and it didn't actually come out that he was until after his death. And it would have been nice if that, he had actually been open about it, but he didn't want to. He didn't want to. He knew that there were a lot of women who really loved him and thought he was so very attractive, and he just didn't want to, let them know that he was not interested in them. So, but no, he should have. Yeah, he should have. He should have been honest. And,
yes. Well, and especially because he was a soul singer.
Yeah.
He sang very romantic, very sexy ballads and songs. And,
he was the best.
But does it really matter?
No.
If you're straight or gay or both, bisexual, if you sing that sexy?
Yeah.
Like.
Well, not only that sexy, but from the heart.
Yeah.
I mean, really passionate. So anyway, go listen to Luther Vandross. He was the best.
People have that quirky party game or question, who would you go gay for? And I always thought that trivialized the matter, but I also thought it had a certain charm to it, too.
Maybe, yeah. Yeah, I would say.
Yes.
Yeah, so anyway, happy Easter.
Yes.
Happy George Takei's birthday. That's great.
Yeah, just checking out the chat here. Because of current events, I was revisiting an episode, Amy, that you and I did on the topic of honor. And I won't tell the usual joke because John Paquette actually said it when I posted about this on Facebook.
Oh, did he?
Yes. Although he left off the punchline.
Oh.
There was a young lady who offered her honor. There was a young man who honored her offer. I'm not going to read the punchline. Because I posted it online, and our longtime fans have heard me tell that joke before anyway. But I was thinking about honor, and we did an episode of 5 Minutes on your honor. And I also did an episode of Life on Earth, on living the ideas. Well, honor is not in Ayn Rand's list of 7 virtues. Go figure. Except, Ayn Rand had more than one list of 7 virtues, so that's what I want to talk about. Real quick, under what we're listening to this week, I do want to mention that Jean Maroney has another, as she always does, a weekly post in the Thinking Directions website, a case study in integrating systems. If that is an off-putting title, or maybe it was just me and I was too tired this morning, read it anyway. It's really, really good. Last week she was talking about why you should never take on more than one project at the same time. And it's interesting because I've given the advice before, you should always have 2 projects going, and one should be light and trivial, so you can take breaks from the complicated, hard, or difficult one and do some of the light and trivial and then go back. And I still stand by that, and I think it works. But you should not take 2 very difficult and projects on at the same time. Anyway, read it. Link is in the link is in the show notes, posted in the description on YouTube and Facebook. Except the Facebook one goes away in 30 days. I mentioned before, Facebook just changed things where these live videos are only available to you for 30 days. And then Facebook scrubs them. YouTube, you win the video battle in my heart because you've got stuff up there that I posted so long ago, I don't even remember what it was and probably wish you'd take it down. But no, do check out that post by Jean Maroney. Also, my daughter sent me the history of the entire world, I guess.
That's right.
I mean, it's very millennial or Gen... What's the latest Gen after Z?
Gen Z?
Is Gen Z the latest? The title of the video is in all lowercase letters, and it says history of the entire world, comma, I guess. Even the I is in lowercase. And that's obviously intentional and all of that. It's cute, so I added it to the show notes, but then I also added the Cosmic Eye video from Google that you should look at as well. And the last thing I've got is, what does it say here? The homegrowns are next. The homegrowns. Oh, you've got to build 5 more places. Oh, wait, that's Donald Trump talking to Bukele. I've been chastised. I've been criticized on the internet.
Yes, you have.
And you regulars know I'm a sensitive guy. I'm a pink shirt wearing sensitive guy. It hurt my feelings, and I get all nervous.
Coffee mug with a rose on it.
I've got a coffee mug with a rose on it, and a little noise-making thing here. No, seriously. Well, no, that is seriously, because I'm an introvert, and when people criticize me, I'm like, oh my God, somebody criticized me. I've got to change everything. No. And then I remember, oh wait, yeah, no, whatever. I'm bulletproof, and I have integrity and all of that.
Yeah.
But it's still, it hits me. So this person was saying, well, Robert, you obviously want, and this was about immigration, you'll see how this fits. You obviously want the crime. You want women to be raped. You want there to be murder. You want the mayhem, just like the woke and the left, and you can see where that goes. And then the headline, Donald Trump speaking to Bukele. The homegrowns are next. The homegrowns. You've got to build 5 more places. Now, there were headlines last week, and I talked about this. Our current president is investigating, no, not deporting illegal aliens. Or do they say illegal alien? They have another word for that. They keep changing. I'm lousy with neologisms. You'll have to forgive me if I use old words for new concepts that aren't new but are really old. But he's investigating, can we deport citizens? Can we just take our own homegrown, as he says in his own words, I've linked the video clips, this is him, not me, our own homegrowns and send them to foreign country jails? I don't understand how anybody isn't appalled by that and doesn't immediately want to, I didn't even know. I don't have
I know.
words.
Go protest in the street.
One
I
of the
guess.
things I admire about Generation Z, or maybe it was Generation Y, is they came up with a phrase, I can't even. And it's the perfect phrase, because I can't even. I'm incapable of evening. I just can't.
Right. Well, I mean, most people, not most, a lot of people would say, "Oh, he's only joking," and then he'll pass tariffs, and they'll still say, "Oh, but he's only joking." And
No,
then he'll.
what they'll say is what was said to me
Okay.
just recently, today or yesterday, I forget. No, you obviously want the criminals to go free. You want women to be
Obviously.
raped. You want men to be murdered. You want children to be slaughtered. You want, I forget all of the things that I was accused of wanting. And it's really weird to think, well, that's the problem is thinking, but it's really weird to think somebody thinks that I think that that would be a good thing.
Well, anytime I've ever been attacked online, and that's been rare, not attack. I don't even want to call it attacking, because when I read what they write, and it's in my thread or whatever it is, I think to myself, is this person really directing this comment towards me? Like really, actually, me in reality,
That's
like
true.
who I am.
It's a good point.
What my character is. What my virtues are, all my actions, all the things that I do, all the things that I say, my conscientiousness, my being careful with my thinking. Is this person really saying this to me? No, they're not. They're not saying it to me.
You're right. You're absolutely
And this
right.
person was not saying anything to you.
They think they're talking to you, but they're talking to some you that is only in their head.
As a matter of fact, the person in question was really just including many typos in the comments. and I thought to myself, was this person drunk?
I've made typos, but yeah,
You could have
sometimes you can
been.
tell typos. Typos can be mistakes with your fingers, or they can be mistakes with your mind. Yes, absolutely. But that's such a great point. They're not talking to you. Because the person that was being described in this post criticizing me was obviously not me. So whoever
Right.
they're talking about, it's their own, there's some version of me in their own head. So there you go. It's, yeah. I am jealous of Equal to Reality, who says, my Easter, all the shops were completely closed, but the restaurants were open. On my third reading of Atlas Shrugged on Part 3, Chapter 2. I'm glad you mentioned that, because I'm going to be reading some Atlas Shrugged quotes tonight.
That's nice.
Yeah, got a couple of them here. Why? Because of all these current events going on, again, I had to revisit the concept honor. We have a president who believes in loyalty as a one-way street. He demands loyalty from everybody, but gives loyalty to... Who is he loyal to? And the correct answer, in case you didn't know, is nobody. And the proof of that is all over the place. Everybody who ever worked for him. But honor. What is honor? A quality that combines respect, being proud, and honesty. For example, a man or woman of honor. This is from the Cambridge Dictionary. I love that. I love the concept of honor, or in honor of. You do a celebration or a show of respect in honor of somebody who deserves it. You can be honor bound. You're obligated to do something, not because you'll be punished, but by your own standards, by your own honor. You do honor to somebody. That's why people who are really good at what they do, well, we'll consider the obvious case of a judge, a magistrate, where we say, your honor. Why do we do that? Because in that context, he may not be an honorable person with his wife, his kids, his dogs, his bunny rabbit, but in that context, he is the expert. He is the one who maintains the decorum of the situation. He makes the proceeding possible, and we say, your honor. We give honors to people. We honor them with ribbons and awards and ceremonies. I love the concept of honor. And it's kind of like saying you're proud of somebody.
Yeah, I believe that Ayn Rand once said that courage is honor in action, or something like that.
I was just about to read that quote.
Oh, there you go.
You've got it right off of my sheet.
I'm reading
here,
your mind.
at the very top of the sheet.
Whoa, there you go. Oh, there you are. It's a little bit different. Honor is self-esteem made visible in action.
Right. Exactly right. Honor is, like every virtue, and this will sound crazy to some folks out there, honor is selfish. Honor is in expressing honor, feeling honor, acting on honor is in your own rational self-interest. Well, I came across a lot of this because I was looking for quotes, and one book that I haven't read, and you kind of wouldn't more than once. I haven't read it since it came out, which is the Journals of Ayn Rand. Mm-hmm. They published her personal journals. It's thick. It's
not all of her
thick.
personal journals, I should say. Not all of them, just some.
Right. When I say personal, there were some personal things left out. In fact, fortunately, we have James Valiant, who published a lot of those, who put that out
in the
there.
Passion of Ayn Rand's critics.
Yeah. Why is my screen frozen on Facebook?
Let's take a look here.
No,
I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good.
All right, just having a little computer trouble here. I'm a little curious because I shouldn't get into the technical stuff here, but I will before we wrap up. You are watching this show on a new computer, or rather, the main computer we've always used for the show was just upgraded to Windows 11. So if we are having any snafus, hang-ups, strange audio, anything strange going on, let me know. And I'll also tell a lot of you that if you've got an older computer, but it's still a really high-powered computer, do consider upgrading it to Windows 11 if you can bypass all the compatibility checks. Okay, I was reading about this when I was researching it, because in Ayn Rand's journals, she talks about she was preparing to write the. Now let me organize my notes here and make sure I get this right. She was getting ready to write a book after The Fountainhead, so it's 1943. She's getting ready to write The Moral Basis of Individualism.
Nice.
She was going to, she's finished The Fountainhead. She wants to get her philosophy out there. She's going to do her own OPAR. Never happened, but she made a lot of notes for it, and a lot of it ended up in her later essays. And in the section on The Moral Basis of Individualism, she made a list of virtues. Mm-hmm. Now, those of you who've read Atlas Shrugged, as I mentioned, Equal to Reality is reading Atlas Shrugged, you may think you know what her 7 virtues, and they are. They are her 7 primary virtues, which I don't have in front of me, but I'm sure we can read off from memory. Rationality, that one always stands alone, and it's the source of all the other. Honesty and integrity, which go together.
Justice, independence. Pride and productiveness. I find people, it's usually productiveness, that people, either productiveness or independence. Yeah.
Justice and pride seem to go together.
Yeah.
You are just with other people who deserve it, and you are morally virtuous, ambitious rather yourself. Obviously, honesty, integrity, your personal behavior, and what you expect from other people. Well, in the moral basis of individualism, we have a list of 7 virtues, and I thought this would be fun to consider these virtues. Because they're not the usual thing, and we are living through times where it's tempting to think that bad guys win. Bad guys get away with stuff. Jeffrey Epstein had a really good time before he killed himself. Or somebody did. It might have been Candace Owens that went in there and killed him.
I don't know.
Hey, prove me wrong.
Yes.
So we're just real quick conversation, 7 virtues.
Yeah.
What would you guess they are? There are really 9 listed, but 2 of them overlap. There's integrity and there's honesty, which we have from, of course, John Galt and Atlas Shrugged. Whoops, spoilers. But anyway. So she says, man's virtues are the qualities required for the preservation of his independence.
Oh.
Well, that's a little different form, but these are notes to herself. This was not her final word on any of this. These are just her notes to herself as she's putting this together. But I love this because it's a different slant. The virtue of courage. Courage. We talked about courage and confidence.
Right.
And Ayn Rand has great quotes on courage and confidence, but courage is a virtue? Well, you think, it's integrity. It's acting on what you believe. But I love that in these early notes, she's thinking as much about the ideas as the applications, and that's how it comes up for all of us. When we say, oh my God, I got to do the right thing, I got to have integrity, but it's going to be hard. And I don't know if it's going to work out. And I might even get punished for doing or saying the right thing.
I know that I think it was the formulation. I don't know if it was Ayn Rand or Leonard Peikoff. I think it was Ayn Rand. And I think it was that that courage is a corollary to honesty, I think. And confidence is a corollary to integrity.
Yeah, she had a great way of putting that. Let me find that real quick.
Yeah. So, yeah, and again, these are written in between The Fountainhead and Atlas Shrugged, and this is before Galt's speech, and this is in her journals again, and so this is before she formulated that all of the virtues are derived from rationality or from the process of reason, and which was amazing for her to integrate that and to lay that out that way. So I think she's kind of approaching it as, what are like the best virtues that I see that other people are talking about, and let me try to formulate what the virtues are with what's out there right now. That's my guess.
Well, that was Aristotle's approach. Mm-hmm. What are the great men doing? Mm-hmm. And I love that she's so grounded. So in her early notes, and confidence, as I mentioned, that will be one of the 7 as well. So I'll give you both of these real quick. The virtue of courage is the strength to face any threat and then to fight back. Fight what? Well, nature, as well as other men, when necessary. Now, she went on to write about the metaphysical versus the man-made and what that looks like in reality.
Yeah, and we just recently read that.
Yeah, so we talked about that last week. And then she says the virtue of self-confidence. And listen to this. This is Ayn Rand writing to herself in her journals for her own notes. The virtue of self-confidence is made clear by the very term. It is not confidence in others, nor reliance upon others, but confidence in one's own ability, in one's strength, one's courage, one's judgment, one's vision. Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah.
Now, imagine if you wrote that in your journals and then you had to condense it. Let's say you were going to make it part of a really big speech at the end of your largest book. Courage and confidence. You ready for this? I love how this came out. Courage and confidence are practical necessities. Courage is the practical form of being true to existence, of being true to truth. And confidence is the practical form of being true to one's own consciousness. That last bit is so Ayn Rand. It's only Ayn Rand who would say confidence. Well, that means you're good at something and you can do it. No, because that's not the essence of what confidence is. Confidence, in Ayn Rand's terms, is the practical form of being true to one's own consciousness. We've discussed that before, that you need reverence for yourself, as Nietzsche said. And that means you should never say, well, it's only in my head. I can fake this because I'm the only one who will know about it.
Right, or it's just my thinking.
It's just me.
It's just my thoughts. No.
You should never have humility in any way, but especially not in regard to your own consciousness.
Yes.
You should respect your mind.
Yes.
Because that's the only real source of confidence. Love that. So, courage, confidence. And then in the other unusual 7, there's an interesting one here. The virtue of strength.
Yeah.
Virtue of strength implies all the same considerations: strength of character, strength of will, strength of spirit, all attributes of the ego, and needed in conflicts with others. Strength. It's interesting because that again will the formulations will change over the course of time. But you do need to be strong. Nowadays, they would say you've got to be tough. You've got to be a strong man. You got to know the art of the deal,
Right.
But no, strength of character, strength of will, strength of spirit. And how did Ayn Rand describe the ideal man? What is the essence of masculinity? Well, Ayn Rand says strength is the essence of masculinity. And later formulations, which apply equally to men or women, is efficacy, ability, the ability to make things happen, including the will, the strength of will to make things happen. I just love that.
The thing is that she's including strength as one of her, is what she understands to be a virtue that would be universal. So I mean, you're bringing up her psychological interpretation of masculinity and femininity.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's outside of that.
Yes.
Because I mean, if I mean, I'm definitely a strong person. I'm definitely an integrated person. I sink my teeth into something and I'm going to get it done, or I'm going to see it through.
Yes.
And if somebody says whatever they say to me, or if they're wrong or in error, I will point that out. I have the courage to do that, or to say to people, I disagree. Or just even to say to people, like a lot of people right now, I know you, I've known you many years. I don't think you're wrong. I don't think you're right now. But I think that eventually we will be on the same page later. I disagree with you right now. But, those are the people I'm putting in my crock pot, my Trump crock pot. It's something you as a woman, to be strong is definitely there. In physical strength, of course, it's a little bit different. But yeah, it's just interesting that she wrote that down for herself as something that would be a universal virtue. But again, this is again between the Fountainhead and Atlas Shrugged. This is before she formulated what she wrote in Atlas Shrugged.
Yeah, again, 1943, and So what I haven't read yet is The Love of Freedom, which she says is a synonym of independence. And
that's interesting.
Yeah, it seems like it wasn't just a synonym, it was kind of subsumed under it, because independence is much more, it's more to the core of who you are, even than your love of freedom. But she respected that passion to be free, the love of freedom, valuing your independence. In 43, she was thinking of that as a virtue, and I totally agree. I totally get that. And this is interesting, and this is a virtue that I'm still defining for myself. You see what you think? The virtue of wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
wow.
What did we talk about last week? Yeah, good on Easter, because we can throw the religious reference in there for folks who are into that. God grant me the wisdom to know the difference, the
yes.
courage to... It's funny when you got to remember something and then you lose it. I could have said this, rolled off the tongue before the show. God grant me the...
It's, God grant me the serenity to accept the
what
things
I
cannot change.
The
courage to change the things
I
can.
Yeah.
And the wisdom to know the difference.
Yeah, I just need the word
Hallelujah.
serenity. All you need is the word serenity, and it all comes back.
Yes.
Because it was serenity, courage, wisdom. And so I love that she writes, the virtue of wisdom implies all the same considerations as above. One cannot be wise except through one's own brain and acting upon one's own thoughts. And she summed it up. She says, all these virtues are contained in, enhanced by, based upon one fundamental virtue. What would you guess that would be? Think on that for a second. All of these virtues, these 7 virtues, actually 9 if you count honesty and integrity, all of these virtues are contained in, enhanced by, and based upon one fundamental virtue, that of self-respect. Self-respect. That, she understood later that as virtues, as exercises of your consciousness and acting in the real world, they were all based on rationality. But here, contained in, enhanced by, based upon one fundamental virtue of that is self-respect. The noble soul has reverence for itself. It may sound less fundamental, and I think it is less fundamental, but it's the missing link. No, not the missing conceptual link, the anti-conceptual mentality. I mean, it's what's missing in people who fail in practicing what they themselves believe to be virtuous.
And I think here she's talking, if I'm gonna harbor a guess here, is the virtue of pride.
Yes.
And as a matter of fact, Yaron Brook was talking about this yesterday, about pride. I think somebody asked him a question about what is the virtue that that a lot of objectivists just don't quite get or don't practice or whatever.
Yeah, if there's one virtue that an objectivist is not, if you're going to fall short at all, he wasn't saying everybody does, but yeah, if there's one virtue that objectivists fail most often at, what is it?
And in terms of her saying that it's a fundamental virtue, it kind of is in a way. It's not like epistemologically fundamental, but pride is the crown of the virtues.
Yes.
That is absolutely true.
Pride is moral ambition.
Yes.
So just like rationality is the root, the primary, the fundamental of all virtues, pride is the overarching perspective on virtue.
Right.
So it's not surprising that she says self-respect is implied in each of the other virtues.
And it's the ambition to be virtuous, so to have virtues. So yeah, it's very interesting. It goes on. I don't know if there's more to this, but it says self-respect is implied in each of them. A man who does not respect himself can have no integrity, no courage, no honesty, no honor, no strength, no wisdom, no virtue of any kind. Self-respect implies that a man considers himself an entity of value, a purely egotistical consideration. Yeah. Again, these are her journals. This is from the Journals of Ayn Rand. These are her notes to herself about her own philosophy and about her fiction writing.
Right.
But yeah, it's really interesting to me that, she had to start somewhere, and she had to untangle a lot of things, and she had to logically streamline a lot of disparate concepts and really follow the most rigorously logical pattern of defining these terms and understanding them within the context. And later she would, I think it was her who came up. Was it Ayn Rand who came up with the term spiral theory of knowledge? I'm sure it was.
I don't know. I know the term was used in her discussions with Leonard Peacock, but
yes.
I don't know that she invented it. But
Yeah.
Yeah, that idea of you learn something and then you learn more and you learn more, and eventually it takes you back around to the first thing you learned, but now you know more. You've expanded the concept. And it's not that what you knew was wrong. You simply have a richer context of knowledge. You know more about it. And so it goes. Yeah, absolutely. And so let me now repeat the statement regarding honor after we've discussed this. A sense of honor is a selfish virtue by definition, because it implies the honor of one's own self, one's own ego. A man with a sense of honor will not submit to certain things. He will not permit them to be done to him, the things which he considers dishonorable. Dishonorable to who? To him. Will not permit to be done by whom? By other men. What then does a sense of honor require? The placing of self above others. The principle of altruism applied here would become abjectness and depravity, an act of evil. So here's something for you to guess. In what single, and this is for the Ayn Rand fans out there, in what single objectivist resource or volume, what's the one in which the word honor comes up the most?
I'm having a hard time remembering that.
Yeah, I'll leave the question there for a minute so some folks in the chat can guess.
Yeah, say it again.
What work by Ayn Rand contains the word honor the most? When does it come up the most? And there's actually two answers, and it's a bit of a trick question.
Is it an essay?
No. Oh. It's an entire book.
Oh.
So you could say all the essays in Virtue of Selfishness, but
I mean,
that's not it.
it isn't the forward to the 25th anniversary of the Fountainhead, or no? Probably
Well,
not.
You could say the whole book, The Fountainhead,
Yeah.
including and it wouldn't be, no.
No, okay.
Yeah, again, it's not a single work, but an entire volume.
Honor.
And the answer is it's a tie.
Okay.
And the first place it comes up is funny once you guess it. It's night of January 16th.
Oh.
Because of the expression, Your Honor.
Yeah.
And the other place where the concept comes up, and obviously more meaningfully, is in that book, Equal to Reality, is reading Atlas Shrugged.
Ah, yes. I do recall that word being used pretty often. I mean, it's an expansive book, so
Yeah.
It's-
Well, think of the first run of the John Galt line.
yeah.
There's the Honor Guard.
Right.
All of the employees and ex-employees of Taggart Transcontinental are standing guard by the rails to make sure nothing untoward happens in that first
holding
run.
rifles and then cheering as the train goes by.
Yes. Yeah. Or Hank Reardon, after the first pour of Reardon metal. Here, I'll quote that a little bit. After a while, he realized he was thinking of his past, as if certain days of it were spread before him, demanding to be seen again. He did not want to look at them. He despised memories as a pointless indulgence. But then he understood that he thought of them tonight in honor of that piece of metal in his pocket. And then he permitted himself to look. Yeah.
Hank Reardon, yes.
Yep. Dagny Taggart talking to Francisco d'Anconia when they're young. You might like to know, she said, that I have a job on the railroad, night operator at Rockdale. He laughed. All right, Taggart Transcontinental. Now it's a race. Let's see who will do greater honor. You to Nat Taggart or I to Sebastian d'Anconia. The word honor comes up in that way throughout the book. There are 24 instances of it. And I'm not going to read all of the quotes. You can watch that earlier discussion we had. But honor, moral ambition. I talked about how FDR, on this date, destroyed the gold standard. Well, mostly destroyed it. Richard Nixon killed it off for good.
Yeah.
I talked about how if we brought gold back as the standard, or any other one enormously important, even though isolated, change like that. Well, imagine if we could bring honor back. Well, it still exists. It still exists in the character of every decent person out there. It certainly still exists, for example, in the U.S. military. And the military code of justice could just as well be the code of honor. That is what we need. That is... And you could say this again about any of Ayn Rand's virtues, but honor, moral ambition, pride could, should, and maybe will save the world. So I hope on this fine Easter, with spring well underway, that you are proud of yourself and enjoying the benefits of your own virtues, having Easter dinner and whatnot. And I want to take a look at the chat.
Yes.
Because there's some good stuff in there.
Well, you take a look at that.
Yes.
And yeah. So we've just been talking about Ayn Rand's formulations of virtues that are found in the Journals of Ayn Rand. These are her own private notes to herself that were made in between The Fountainhead and Atlas Shrugged. And before she came up with the 7 virtues in Atlas Shrugged. And so it's a lot of fun. It's really, I need to reread the Journals of Ayn Rand. I think we all should. But yeah, there are a lot of good questions in here. One I kind of answered, but not really. Somebody asked if we saw the movie The Castle. Stephen asked this, and it's an Australian film? No, we have not. I saw one with Carrie Elways, which was a silly Hallmark film called A Castle for Christmas, which was very, very lighthearted. But other than that, no.
Yeah.
Steve, I want to just answer. Stephen No, we don't like The Simpsons. I'm so sorry.
Oh, yeah. I've never actually watched a full episode of The Simpsons. It's not my style.
I have it. It's not. It's very cynical.
It's very clever.
It's clever.
And it's funny.
And the timing is good, but there's nobody who... In any comedy that we like, there's always heart. There's always somebody with some kind of goodness in them. Somebody that you're rooting for. That's not there in The Simpsons, really. And it also reminds me of the fact that I was first introduced to Matt Groening, whatever his last name is.
Through Life in Hell.
Yeah, through Life in Hell, which was like a little comic.
If you don't know the Life in Hell comic, which arguably was better than The Simpsons, but extremely nihilistic.
Yeah, very cynical, and
So yeah, The Simpsons is great. It's just not my jam.
Yeah. I mean, there was the whole, eat my shorts kind of thing, and it kind of developed, and it's just, it's okay for satire, I suppose, but sometimes they're making fun of things that shouldn't be made fun of.
Actually, he, shortly after mentioning that, he says, "You guys hate The Simpsons, though?" I don't know how the word got out about that, because we didn't say that back at 6:09.
Oh, I don't know.
I guess the word is out there.
The word is out there.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't just say out of the blue, I hate The Simpsons.
Right.
I would have to explain my opinion of The Simpsons, because, again, a lot of people I know and love The Simpsons, and for good reasons. It is clever and funny, and for some people, the combination of that and the way it is irreverent about things that deserve irreverence is enough. And if that's something you enjoy, you go for it.
And it's one of those situations where you can only, for me personally, I can only take so much catharsis before I start becoming cynical. And if you know what I mean, I just, it's, yeah. I mean, in comedies, we have our own standards with regard to comedies. So, yeah, just like everybody does.
Everybody does. Everybody has their jam, what they're looking for, what they admire, their hierarchy of values. Ian asks, or mentions, actually, he doesn't ask, he mentions, and this is interesting. I dropped Twitter 6 months ago and have been happy about it. Less exposure to toxic junk. I was listening to Sam Harris recently, and he talked about how, he quit Twitter years ago, and he's much happier for it. I think that's a reasonable approach. Given what I do, I wouldn't drop it at this point, but I spend very little time on Twitter.
I have a Twitter account that I never go on, so...
I am there for a few specific reasons, and that's it. So yeah, I absolutely admire anybody who says I'm getting off any particular social media platform, perhaps even all social media platforms. Equal to Reality says my typos are usually down to my dyslexia. And I apologize if I've made any dyslexia jokes. They're usually about my own weaknesses and not about actual dyslexics. I have been known to find wordplay in that regard amusing. But anyway, Equal to Reality also says Windows 10 is better than Windows 11. That's true, but, in October you're going to lose all your support. I've got machines that are still running Windows 7, so I would be the last person to say every machine should be upgraded to the latest and greatest out of Microsoft. But yeah, my production machines, I'll have them all upgraded to 11 by the time support ends. And I'm sure Equal to Reality knows, but some of you don't. A couple of tips on this since I just went through it. If you have a machine that's not compatible, but it's a really nice machine, if the only reasons it's not compatible are the CPU and TPM, if you don't know what that is, don't worry about it, you could probably upgrade the machine. And the upgrade is free. Windows 10 to Windows 11 is a free upgrade. Feel free to post on my social media asking me about it, or just search the internet. And I can tell you, if you want, about my experiences upgrading 2 different machines, including a Microsoft Surface Pro. So a Microsoft machine that is not compatible with Windows 11 is now running Windows 11. Anyway, that's all I'll say about that, other than hopefully there weren't any snafus with tonight's show on this machine that is running Windows 11 for the first time, even though Microsoft says that machine shouldn't be upgraded to Windows 11. Well, as a IT professional, I'll trust my own judgment, or at least experience. anything else that we're missing out there?
Yeah, Stephen has a couple of good questions, which I'll briefly talk about here. Are there people who don't deserve self-confidence? No.
Self-confidence is not a thing you deserve or don't deserve.
Right.
You have it or you don't. I think I get the intention of the question. There are people who have more self-confidence than they should.
Yeah.
And even more self-esteem than they should, because their sense of life is such that they have a warped idea of what merits self-esteem. But here's the important point. If they are self-confident beyond their abilities, or if they have self-esteem beyond their personal value, it will contain contradictions and clashes. It will lead them to moments of extreme self-doubt.
Yes.
And they will usually overcompensate for that in ways that, to the onlooker, make you think, oh, wow, he's really proud of himself, or he's really self-confident. In other words, honest values in your life will always give you a better result than corrupted, mixed, or dishonest values in your life. So you think, well, what about the mafia don, the boss of a mafia family? Mm-hmm. He's super rich, and everything he's tried to do has worked, even though most of it was criminal. And he seems like he's happy. He's got all this money, and people like him, and he's got a fancy car, and he lives in a mansion. And would you want that happiness if the alternative was a successful businessman, an inventor, a producer, a creator, somebody who knows everything he does is good, not just for him and his tightly knit clan as long as he doesn't get caught, but actually good for everybody he trades with and exchanges value with? Do you want to be the guy who looks in the mirror every morning and says, I am the enemy of every decent person I meet, but I'm getting away with it, and that's just the way the world is? Or do you want to be the man who looks in the mirror every day and says, God, I like that guy?
Yeah, or, I mean, do you like yourself? Do you like to be around yourself? Do you like to be alone? I love to be alone. Or just, in my own little space. And Robert does too, by the way, which really makes us compatible.
Yeah. It's a great question, and we've done whole shows about that. Again, why John Gotti or say a corrupt businessman who rose to ranks of enormous power, even though he took advantage of all of his contractors and most of the people he dealt with, and got people thrown out of their homes under eminent domain, and let half of his businesses go bankrupt, but use the bankruptcy laws to take advantage. I won't name any names, but would you rather be an honest businessman at a medium grade of success, doing well, or that guy, even if he happens to have somehow become rich?
Yeah, and I got to tell you one thing that here's just I don't know if you want to call it a mantra or not, or just something that you repeat in your head, which I do, is the phrase "reality always wins."
Reality always. I have a button that says that. Reality always wins.
And it's a great quote, just to remind you that you cannot, no matter. There is no magical power out there that will let you lie to people, let you be corrupt, let you be cruel, let you infringe upon other people's rights without consequences, especially in this day and age. Think about it. Compared to, say, feudal society in Europe, or worse, just worse states of humanity out there, whether that's 200 years ago or 2,000 years ago. Right now, we have a pretty conceptualized idea of individual rights, or the rights of people in general, or generally how do you treat one another, and how do you appeal to people's self-interest in that context. Reality is always going to win, and it's going to win over anything that our current president and administration is doing right now. A lot of the justices in the courts are writing wonderful things, and
there are so many people fighting what's going on.
Yeah,
it's really heartening.
Yeah, it is very, very wonderful. I know, listening to the last Yaron Brook episode, he goes about discussing what the courts are doing with regard to the immigration, or the removal, as somebody put in the chat. They're not calling it deportation, they're calling it removal like an individual human being is just a piece of garbage, like trash removal or something. It's just awful, absolutely horrible. Gosh, I think Stephen somewhere in here asked, what do you think about Homeland Security and the Patriot Act? That should have been phased out. 10, at least 10 years after 9/11. I remember going to Dallas late last year and
there was a question about Homeland Security too.
Yeah.
The short answer to that is there should never have been a Department of Homeland Security if it was going to be implemented the way that it was implemented.
Yeah.
The way in which it was implemented, it made nobody safer. It made everybody miserable. It didn't do any good. Now, the people who ran it will tell you, well, there's all sorts of terrorist activity that would have happened if we hadn't stopped it. But I also think that there was an incredible assaults on people's individual liberty. I am skeptical of how much, if any, violence was stopped. What should have happened was that department that was created should have been a sub-department within another or several of the existing agencies. And there would have been less opportunity for them to go beyond a reasonable scope. It's a complicated question. Incidentally, Dale in the chat, I mentioned the earlier joke that I didn't give you the punchline to. Dale has brought up one of my longtime favorite jokes. Have you heard about the agnostic, dyslexic insomniac? He was kept up all night wondering whether or not there is a dog.
Very good.
Yes.
Very
Which
good.
is a good joke to bring up on Easter. Thank you for that, Dale.
Yeah.
And I didn't read it word for word, but I've told that joke so many times it's memorized. All night long, it was honor and offer.
But I was going to say, though, that I was in Dallas last year, and I went to the George W. Bush Presidential Museum something or other center. And golly geez, it was so disheartening. It was just, George W. Bush was not...
he was the king of Homeland Security.
And the Patriot Act.
He kept us safe after 9/11.
Awful. Anyway, he did a lot of harm, I'll just say that.
Yeah, I mean, we're probably not the people to make that case, but since you asked, my opinion or my best understanding is, no, the Patriot Act and the Department of Homeland Security were not the proper response to what happened on 9/11. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of other good comments in the chat, although not too many questions. Just a lot of fun. You guys are the best. You really
just
are.
a lot of fun. So anyway, happy Easter. Happy Easter, everybody. Happy Luther Vandross and George Takei's birthday.
Flaster Tunes is in the chat on Facebook. I'm sorry if I sometimes interact more with fellow musicians. That's kind. Oh, and Andrea's here too.
Yeah.
My prejudices sometimes show, and you can break through if you like. You try hard enough. Folks, thank you. Honor, but not just honor. What honor names now in the updated 7 virtues: pride, moral ambition. Point I want you to walk away with tonight is just be selfish about this stuff. No, not that selfish bastard. No, this is all in your self-interest. It's all for you. It's like these ideas, these books, are like a manual for life handed to you
on a
for
silver
you to
platter.
capitalize. It's like the recipe book of success.
Yes.
I hope on this fine Easter, again, you are celebrating your own success and your own eagerness to get on with spring, get yourself towards summer, have an outstanding time this year. It still can be. You've got 255 days left. It still can be your best year yet. If we can play a little part of that, it is our honor.
And if you want a little pick-me-up, read the book, The Secret Garden. It's kind of a kid's book, but just remember to think of living things. Think of living things.
Read The Secret Garden. When we talked earlier about Candace Owens, somebody mentioned, I mentioned, and then somebody else mentioned sex magic. Forget about all that crazy Aleister Crowley stuff. The problem with Candace Owens in space is that that's where she lives. in outer space. No, read The Secret Garden and you will learn the truth about, well, the secret, the truth about magic. Yeah, absolutely read that book. I've read it. I don't know how many times I've read it. I first read it on paper, but now we've got it on Audible.
Yeah, I'm listening
You
to
can take it on
again
audiobook.
because it's springtime and I try to listen to it every year.
So, folks, thank you for joining us. Happy spring, happy Easter, happy Sunday, April 20th, or 420. If that's your bag, it hasn't been mine since I was a teenager, but if that's your thing, you go for it. It's legal now in the United States, so I shudder. But then again, I had a green beer, the Irish, St. Patrick's Day episode. Who am I to judge?
Don't obliterate your mind, please.
No. Folks, thanks for joining us. We'll do this again next Sunday. I'm not going to do the usual outro. I'm just going to say, on Easter Sunday, we wish you a big ham, like pork and fancy dinner, and whatever else would upset your religious
potatoes
friends.
And I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. We're eating like we got to look good. We got to look. I'm gonna look like that kid again that you saw the pictures of by Ocon. That's my target. Ocon. That'll be. You will see. Okay, I keep distracting myself. What was I saying? We want you to have a great Easter Sunday. We wish you all the success you so richly deserve. That's what I need to do. Stick to the old script, and that is why on this fine Easter Sunday, we wish you